Devil Wears Prada just released the follow-up to their Zombie EP, and it's a banger. So stick around while we talk about this EP and how it's a true return to form for the Devil Wears Prada. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Bull Combo. I hope you guys are doing great. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today we're going to be talking ZII, the follow-up to the Zombie EP by the Devil Wears Prada. Before we get started, as always, if you want to support the channel, you can use any of the support options listed down below in the description, or you can help out just by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that bell to get notified when I post new content. Alright guys, so let's jump right into this album review. I've been a fan of the Devil Wears Prada since their debut album, Dear Love, A Beautiful Discord. That was released at sort of the height of the metalcore scene, or the height of the beginning of the metalcore scene, and Prada went on to be one of the defining bands in the genre for the better part of a decade. They've gone through a few member changes since then, and some of their more recent releases have definitely strayed from the style that I think pulled a lot of their original listeners in. That said, this EP was a huge return to form for the band, and while I didn't think The Act was a bad album, their last full-length album, I do really think that this is the first time we hear things that sound like Prada in quite a long time. So they actually debuted this entire EP last week on Saturday. They did a live stream where they played this whole thing in its entirety. I was able to catch that. The quality was superb, the songs sounded awesome, and it was our first taste of what we could expect on this EP, and that was absolute heaviness. So from a production standpoint, guys, the production quality is really good. It's very low-end heavy, and it definitely has one of those slightly muddier mixes. Not a muddy mix that makes it hard to hear things, but one of those mixes that's clearly trying to accentuate the heavier aspects of the music. So the bass and the low end of the guitar and the low end of the drums really shines through in the mix on this, and that kind of causes all these breakdowns and all these heavier points to just hit that much harder. So obviously this was intentional, and again, from a production standpoint, I think the production quality is both excellent and definitely fits the style of the EP. In terms of length, we're talking 5 songs, guys, the exact same length as their original Zombie EP. Didn't expect much more than that. I think it's pretty cool that they chose to do 5 songs just like the original EP. I think it clocks in at a little over 23 minutes, which is actually a good amount of music for an EP. So you're gonna get a solid 20 minutes worth of new Prada here, so it's definitely something to be excited about. Alright guys, so let's jump into the most important part about this review, and that is the sound of the album. So I'm gonna preface this just by saying that this album is heavy. It is very heavy. It is a different heavy from the first Zombie EP, but it is still extremely heavy. I think this is the closest sound that we can attribute to older Prada since Chris Ruby left the band. I think right around the time he left the band, the sounds changed quite a bit. And part of that can be attributed just to the fact he was one of the main songwriters in Prada up to that point. So when he left, I think the songwriting process changed quite a bit. They brought in new members, and maybe they even changed the way they wrote songs altogether, and that kind of influenced the way the songs sounded from there on out. But obviously there was a huge change in sound when he left the band. So there was a lot of distaste by some of the original listeners in terms of the direction that Prada was taking. They definitely took an experimental route on a few of the albums after that. I thought they started to return to form on The Act a little bit. The Act definitely had some songs that just reminded me of Prada in their experimentation and in the combination of the different sounds that they were using. But like I said, guys, this is the first time that we've heard what sounds like Prada on an album in quite a long time. It was very exciting to hear. They always had this extra aggressiveness or this extra heaviness that just literally threw them over the top. At one point, they were probably one of the heavier metalcore bands out there, just from the wild sounds they incorporated, the wild off-time breakdowns that they used, the really dissonant, epic-sounding chords that they would play over top of those. They just had a style going that was really good, very likable. And I think this is the first time we've seen a little bit of a return to that style since then. Like I said, guys, this album is extremely heavy, but it's not the same type of heavy that older Prada is. This is more of a refined and modern heavy. I don't necessarily think that this album's great because it sounds like old Prada, because at the end of the day, it still doesn't necessarily sound like old Prada. It's great because the songs are good. They flow very well, the different riffs transition extremely well, the breakdowns hit really hard, and as a whole, the songs just sound good to listen to. So from that perspective, I think people are probably going to be drawn to this EP just because the songs are really, really strong. I don't know if it's necessarily because it sounds like old Prada, because while this is the closest we've heard to old Prada in terms of the heaviness and the franticness that their music brought, it's still not old Prada. Again, it's definitely a much more modern version of their take on their sound. There is still those change-ups in speed, those change-ups in riffs, those really creative riffs. I think that's probably what sets this apart, is this is the first time in a while we've heard just those riffs. Prada has some of the sickest riffs in the metalcore scene. They just had such a treacherous sound to them, such an ominous sound in some of those riffs. And it's really cool to see those brought back on this album a little bit. Again, they're much more down-tuned and a lot more heavier vein than some of their early stuff, but they clearly were trying to achieve a very heavy tone on this album, and I think they accomplished that without question. Guys, all the way through these songs, Pound, I think this is the best Mike Karonica has sounded in quite a long time. His vocals definitely sound reminiscent of old Prada. I would say the strongest similarity to the older Prada sound is definitely Mike's vocals on this EP. Jeremy definitely sounds like he's aged. His voice is definitely different. It's not the high-pitched singing that he used to use. It's a little bit lower tones that he's using now, a little bit different style melodies. It's clear that the band's evolved and they've grown a little bit in their sounds and in their abilities, so it definitely has a different tone in some of those spots. There are some downbeat spots, some slower spots where the singing kicks in, and very ominous, dissonant guitar sounds playing to kind of establish that feeling or set that setting of a zombie apocalypse. As a whole, guys, I think this is a really great soundtrack for something like that. The first Zombie EP was literally the soundtrack to the zombie apocalypse, and this is no different. This is a great follow-up to that. These songs touch on all of the themes that you would expect: loneliness, despair, escape, death, all of the things that you would expect a zombie apocalypse to bring along with it. So from that perspective, they definitely hit the nail on the head in terms of theming and the topics they touch on. So if we were going to talk about my favorite songs, it's going to be really tough because there's only 5 songs and I actually love them all. But if I had to choose favorites, I think my 3 favorites would be Forlorn, Contagion, and Termination. Like I said, all of the songs are awesome. I think those 3 songs sit just a little bit higher than the other 2. Granted, the other 2 are awesome songs as well, and that's why I said it's really hard to choose a favorite when it comes to this EP, but I think those are probably my favorite. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this. Was this a nice, refreshing sound from Prada? Was it nice to hear them return to a little bit of their heavier roots? Let me know down in the comments down below. I know that there's a lot of fans that have mixed opinions on the genre changes that Prada's gone through. Some people love the newer sound, some people hated it. So I'd just love to hear what you guys think about that. If you like this video, make sure to smash that like button. I try to keep this video short and sweet and to the point and just give you guys my thoughts on the overall album and the sound of it without going too far. I know no one likes to watch a really, really long album review. So again, I hope you guys appreciated that. Other than that, I want to thank you guys for checking this video out. I want to thank you guys for the support. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and until next time, we'll see you soon.